When you think of honey, what comes to mind? Probably that sweet, sticky stuff you drizzle on your toast or stir into tea, right? Well, what if I told you that for most of human history, it was seen as this powerful medicine, and that today scientists are actually rediscovering it as a potential weapon in our fight against superbugs? It's pretty amazing. So let's dive in and break down the surprising science of honey.
Using honey as medicine is definitely not some new health trend. No, we're talking ancient history here. As far back as 2000 BCE, great civilizations, the Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, you name it, were all using it to treat wounds and stomach problems. Around 600 CE, the Holy Quran actually describes it as a healing for mankind. And even after we discovered bacteria in the 1800s, it stuck around as a trusted folk remedy. And now, well, as we face this growing crisis of antibiotic resistance, modern medicine is taking a very serious second look.
So, the big question is this all just a bunch of historical anecdotes and old wives' tales? Or is there something real, something tangible, and scientifically proven happening inside this golden liquid? Well, that's exactly what we're going to find out. To get to the bottom of it, we've got to look at what honey is actually made of. And believe me, the answer is a whole lot more complex than just sugar and water. Okay, so on the surface, its makeup looks pretty simple. About 82% is just carbohydrates, mostly sugars. Another 17% is water. But, and this is the important part, the real secret to honey's power is all packed into that tiny remaining 1%. That little slice contains this incredible cocktail of proteins, enzymes, minerals, acids, and powerful plant compounds. That right there, that's the magic 1%. Yeah, the main sugars are fructose and glucose. They're what give honey its sweetness and all that energy. But honestly, from a medicinal point of view, they're kind of the least interesting part. The real action, the stuff that gives honey its amazing therapeutic properties, is happening with all those other ingredients. So, how does honey actually fight off microbes like bacteria? Well, it doesn't just have one trick up its sleeve. No, it launches a full-on, multi-pronged attack. Let's break down its four secret weapons. So we can think of these four mechanisms as the squeeze, the acid bath, the peroxide bomb, and the plant power. Each one creates a totally hostile environment for bacteria, and each one works in a completely different way. Let's start with the first one. First up, we have the squeeze. Honey has incredibly low water content, which makes it what scientists call hygroscopic. Basically, it's desperate to absorb water from anywhere it can. So when you put honey on a wound, it literally sucks the water right out of any invading bacterial cells. And without water, the bacteria just dehydrate and die. They can't grow, they can't reproduce. It's a purely physical attack. Weapon number two, the acid bath. Honey is naturally pretty acidic. We're talking a pH between 3.2 and 4.5. Just to give you some context, that's kind of like orange juice. This acidic environment is just awful for most harmful bacteria. Things like E. coli and Salmonella, they simply can't survive in it. All right, next up is the peroxide bomb, and this is where the bee's own chemistry is just brilliant. See, bees add an enzyme called glucose oxidase into the nectar. Now, in thick, undiluted honey, this enzyme is basically dormant, just sleeping. But the moment that honey gets diluted, say by the fluids from a wound, the enzyme wakes up and kicks off a reaction. It starts to slowly and continuously produce low levels of hydrogen peroxide, a really well-known antiseptic. This creates this perfect little microscopic continuous drip antiseptic that's strong enough to kill bacteria, but gentle enough that it doesn't damage our own tissue. How cool is that? And here's what that chemistry actually looks like. That enzyme, glucose oxidase, grabs a glucose molecule, and with a little water and oxygen, it transforms it. And the result is two key things: gluconic acid, which helps create that acid bath we just talked about, and the main event, hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. It's just an incredibly elegant and effective system. And finally, we have the plant power. You have to remember, honey isn't just made by bees. It's made from plants. As bees are out there collecting nectar, they also pick up all these special plant compounds called phytochemicals, things like flavonoids and phenolic acids. And these substances have their own powerful antibacterial properties that work completely separately from the whole hydrogen peroxide effect. And you really don't need to be a chemist to appreciate how complex this is. These are just some of the different phenolic acids and flavonoids that have been found in honey. Each one adds another layer to honey's microbe-fighting arsenal. And the specific mix,
That depends entirely on which flowers the bees visited. This is why a honey made from clover is going to have a totally different plant power profile than one made from, say, buckwheat. So we've seen the science, which is pretty compelling. Now let's look at how this ancient remedy is making the leap from a simple folk cure into the modern clinic. I mean, this quote really gets to the heart of why this research is so exciting. When our most powerful modern antibiotics fail, honey can still work. Just let that sink in for a second. Its multi-pronged attack is just so much harder for bacteria to develop resistance to than a single mechanism antibiotic. And that's why its potential is just enormous. And this isn't just theory, okay? Doctors are using sterilized medical-grade honey right now. It's being applied to wound dressings for severe burns and chronic ulcers, and it's helping clear up infections that even powerful drugs struggle with. It's being used to treat superbugs like MRSA and wounds, and there's even research showing it can help with everything from bacterial diarrhea to fighting the plaque on your teeth. But before you run to your pantry and grab that little honey bear, there's something really crucial you need to know. Not all honey is created equal, not even close.
The type of flower a bee visits completely changes the honey's final properties. So, as a general rule of thumb, darker honeys, like buckwheat, tend to pack more of that plant power from phenolic acids. Lighter honeys, on the other hand, might be higher in other compounds, like flavonoids. This huge variability is exactly why doctors use standardized medical-grade honey. They need to ensure consistent potency. For the rest of us, it just means every single jar of honey has its own unique profile. So, where does all this leave us? What could the future possibly hold for this ancient and now newly understood remedy? You know, as our modern wonder drugs, antibiotics, face this growing threat of resistance, we're being forced to look for new solutions. And it's just fascinating to think that one of the most promising answers might not come from a high-tech lab, but from the humble beehive, a solution that's been right there waiting for us for literally thousands of years. It really makes you wonder, what other secrets are just waiting to be rediscovered in nature?